This is task 2A part 1, where you've been asked to create a logo. Now on the surface this might seem quite a simple task, but you're only going to get one mark for the logo and you have to meet all of these requirements, and you'll also have to annotate them for the second part. Now meeting the requirements is absolutely key to this task, and if we read through them we can look at some of the things that are required. It must be developed from scratch. That means we can't use anything like clip art that already exists. It must be produced using vector drawing software. Now you might be lucky and at school you might have some software that is capable of doing this, but most of vector drawing software tends to be very complicated. There is a free tool available on the net. It's called flamingtext.com ImageBot. So it's the ImageBot that is the tool, and that will allow us to use vector images, and it will allow us to meet all these requirements as well. We're told it must be 300 pixels high, 300 pixels wide. That'll be straightforward. Transparent background. It must look like a lamp. Those objects that form the lamp must be grouped together. It must include the letter L somewhere. It must be no more than 2 colours, and what is important here is because we've got transparency, we can use any other 2 colours, including white. So we can only use black and white, or red and white, or black and red, or yellow and black. We can't use white as a third colour as a background because we're having a transparent background. And it then must be exported as a bitmap file retaining the transparency. So we're going to have to produce it using vector software but export it as a bitmap. So if we look at this software called ImageBot, we can start by creating a new drawing. First thing to do with anything is to get it saved. So if we select the option to save, and we're going to give it a name, so I'll call it Lamplighter Logo. Now at the moment it's saving it as a portable network graphics format. We need it to be scalable vector graphics because we've got to use SVG format. So I'll click on save, and that will save now in my downloads area. So when you're getting your document, and it looks like it's called mine download.svg, so if we have a quick look at our downloads, we'll be able to see there it is. It's called it download.svg rather than what I actually wanted to call it. So you'll just need to be aware, okay, of what you're doing and where your files are being stored, or you'll need to manually set it to save somewhere else. So the first thing that we'll do is we'll have a look at that transparent background. So if we go to the edit menu, there's an option here called preferences, and then you can see there we have canvas color. So we're going to change that, and we're going to use this red X. That means no color at all. Click on OK, click on save, and now this grey background that you see represents an image with a transparent background. Let's just go back a bit now and do the 300 pixels by 300 pixels wide. So we'll go to File and then Image Properties, and at the moment it's 600 by 400, so I'm going to change that to be 300 by 300. You can see now we've got this square shape. You see that is indicating the edge of my image. So just to make things a little bit simpler for myself, I'm just going to bring my scroll bars to the edge, and I can see then exactly how big my image is going to be. Keep doing this, so we'll get there eventually. It's a bit of trial and error, but that is now 300 by 300, and you've got this ruler here showing. Now we need to create some sort of lamp. So let's use some shapes, and you've got to decide how you're going to create your lamp. You're probably a lot more creative than me. I'm going to have some sort of triangle on here, and I think I'm going to put a circle on top, but I only want to use 2 colors. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the whole of this to be black. So if I select the shape, okay, and I click on palette, it will be black, and the line is also black as well now, and that saves me having to mess around with things. So I'll put another object on there. Let's have this, which is going to represent the lamp. There you go. So I'm not very artistic. You probably all having a good giggle at this at the moment. That's absolutely fine. And there is my lamp. Okay, I've just got to be able to justify if that's going to be a lamp. Now the parts of my lamp have to be in a group, so I'm going to use the shift key to select both bits of the lamp, and I can now go to object and group them together. So they've now been grouped. I now need to put on letter L. Now the text tool that comes with this is extremely fiddly to use. So what I found was that using a rectangle, and it doesn't have to be within the image, it can be outside of your image, but by using two rectangles like this, I could create the letter L myself. There we go. Just a little bit fiddly obviously about working things out, and at the moment I've got three colours. I've got grey, I've got black, okay, and I've also got the transparency, so I've only got two colours really. What I've got to do is decide what I'm going to do for this. Is this going to be a different colour? So say for example I wanted this to be white and that to be white. The problem that I've got is this line here. So by double clicking on an item and double clicking again, you get the properties, and I can change the stroke to also be white. The stroke meaning the edge. Double click it again, there we go, change that to be white. Now I can either have those separate, which wouldn't be a good idea on a white background of course, or I could have this as part of my image. So I think I'm going to have that as part of my image. Just got to line them up, get them sorted. Okay, probably make this one a little bit thinner, and then if I group both of those objects together, oh, it's not quite straight. Well, all those little tiny things that we have to watch out for. Okay, and we'll get there eventually. There you go. If I group these together now, I can move the letter L in one go. So I've met all these requirements up to here so far. It's certainly no more than two colours, and so the final thing for me to do now is save this. So let's just save, leave it as an SVG file for the moment. There you go, it's called it download 1 this time, and now I'm going to save it as a PNG file. Okay, so that will be a bitmap, and it will also retain the transparency. I click on save here, and that is my logo completed. We'll just open it and have a look, and there it is. Now it's not showing up very well in this software. That's because I've got a black background to it, but if I was to open it up in some proper software which didn't have a black background, this would show properly, but because of the transparency it's not showing very well in this photo software which comes with Windows 10, but I know that it has worked. So that's the end of Task 2A Part 1. Now you just need to look at the sort of evidence that we need to show for 2A Part 2.